Chapter 3 of Alice in Zombieland. Eerily curiouser and eerily curiouser. Summer break passed far too quickly, and the first day of my junior year finally arrived. Asher High was on the outskirts of Birmingham, only a 10-minute drive from my grandparents' house. Go Tigers! The bus turned the 10-minute drive into 40. But I was glad for every one of those extra minutes. Like I told Kat that day at the hospital, my mom and dad had graduated from Asher High, and all I could think about was whether their pictures were hanging in any of the case displays. I wasn't ever going to look. If I saw them, I'd probably have a breakdown right there in the halls, something that hadn't happened since the funeral. Yeah, I like to think I was stronger now, more in control, but I wasn't taking chances. I sat in front, just behind the driver, and kept my head down during the ride. I spoke to no one, and I was the first to exit. My steps quick as my backpack thumped against me. I paused in front of the building, my eyes wide and my stomach churning. So many kids. Some were tall, some were short, black, white, boy, girl, rich, poor, pretty, stoned, skinny, not so skinny, clothed, practically naked. Each one huddled into a group, beyond excited to be together again. Everyone seemed to be talking over someone else and laughing. The building itself was sprawling and kind of creepy because, wow, Tigers took their school colors seriously. Never had seen so much black and gold. Black brick was interspaced with gold brick. There was a wealth of trees, the trucks painted black and the leaves painted gold. There was a cement walkway, and black and gold tiger paws led to the front doors, where metal detectors stood guard. Someone had an anchored tiger ears on the side and whiskers in the middle to give the detectors faces. Note to self, never talk badly about jungle cats. Probably get my head dunked into a toilet. I stopped by the front office and asked for a map, only to be sighed and pointed to a fat stack on the counter. I grabbed one and muttered thanks. I had my schedule ready, so it was just a matter of finding my way. I'd never been good with directions. As I walked away, a woman strode out of the back office, spotted me, and changed her course, heading straight for me. She held out a well-manicured hand. "You're Alice Bell." "Allie," I said as we shook. Her grip was strong. Too strong. "I'm the principal here, Dr. Wright, and do not think you'll get away with calling me Mrs. Wright, or Hey Lady. I earned my title. You will use it. Understood?" Yes, I looked at her over as discreetly as possible. Dark brown hair framed a pretty face. She had olive-toned skin, brown eyes that practically flashed towards "I mean business," and a cupid's bow mouth. "If you need anything," she said, already moving off, "don't hesitate to let one of my assistants know." "Thanks, I will." She didn't hear me, because she was already gone. I made my way into the hall that was plastered with Tiger Rule posters and majorly congested kids running in every direction. A black and gold beach ball tossed around, laughter echoing. I must have been walking too slowly because several people tried to mow me down. In an act of self-preservation, I pressed into a wall of lockers. Soon the crowd was thin, and I would navigate my way without incident. As I waited, I tried not to think of my old school, and the fact that, after my last class, I wouldn't be walking to the nearest elementary school to pick up. Nope, not going there. "Allie?" My gaze shot from the floor to a beautiful brunette who stood from the center of a group of girls. Mad Dog. I was so happy to discover a familiar face. I did something I'd never done all summer. I smiled. She smiled back, looking genuinely happy to see me, and waved me over. I closed the distance, and she threw her arms around me as if we were long-lost friends. "Well, whoa, look what the cat dragged in. Get it? Of course you do. I only make awesome jokes. But enough of my brilliant banter. I'm so glad you're here." Her gaze slid over me, and she gave me another grin, this one sly. "Look at you, total chili pepper hot. I love it." A lie, surely. I had on ratty sneakers, ripped jeans, and the oldest tee I owned. The fabric was so frayed, I looked like a gag, or fringe. I hadn't felt like getting dressed up, as if I had something to celebrate. The therapist my grandparents had me see would have said I was punishing myself for living with the rest of my family had died. She uttered those words one more time, I would have hacked off my ears and left them with her. I'd already figured that one out on my own. Thank you. That didn't change how I felt. "Well," Kat prompted, "aren't you going to tell me how good I look?" My gaze roved from top to bottom. "You don't look good. You look amazing," I added before she could pout. She wore glittery shoes, miss-me hip huggers, and skin-tight black top. Dark hair fell in pretty waves over one shoulder. "Gold star for Allie," she said. "Now then, allow me to make introductions. Ladies, this is Allie, a very special friend of mine." I stiffened, thinking she meant to tell me where we'd met, but didn't, and I could have hugged her all over again. "Allie, this is Reeve, Poppy, and Red." "Okay, no Janes, Beths, or Kellys here." "Hello," I said, sounding as lame as always. The girls were as flawless as Kat, with stunning faces you'd usually find only in magazines. They wore drool-worthy outfits, also found only in magazines. Magazines, yeah. That's the only thing that made any sense. Kat had picked each girl out of the flawless friends forever, I'm sure. In comparison, I felt frumpy and way outclassed, like I'd been selected from Homeless Dogs Weekly. Nice to meet you, said Wren, a gorgeous black girl with the most amazing caramel eyes. Any friend of Kat's, said Poppy, a freckled redhead, surely destined to marry a prince or something. I'm throwing a party this weekend. Reeves flicked her dark hair over one shoulder. Her features were striking, bold, and her skin was the most beautiful sun-dusted color of bronze. Just allowed her to get together to celebrate surviving our first week of school. Well, our first 3 days. Why did school always start in the middle of a week? You have to come, she added. I've never been to a party, but I'd certainly heard a lot about the ones my friends had attended. Therefore, I knew that 1, I'd be stuck in an overcrowded house with people I barely knew. 2, I'd be stuck in an overcrowded house with drunk people I barely knew because they would be drinking. Not only had my friends told me about that part, but my mother forced me to watch enough after-school specials to fry 1,000 brain cells. And 3, it would take place at night. Once all I wanted to do was go out at night. I would have given anything for a simple moonlight stroll. Arm, leg, why not my soul? Now, even the thought terrified me. She'll definitely be there, Kat said. I'll make sure of it. Now, get, Allie and I need private time to catch up. She kissed each girl on the cheek and sent them all on their way before returning her attention to me. So, you received your schedule, yes? I ignored the fact that she had just guaranteed my party attendance. No reason to hurt her feelings with a blurgent and childish. Never, you can't make me go. Yes. Having memorized the blocks, I rattled off my classes and prayed we had at least one together. Rock on, we'll have lunch and last block to plan our take-over attempt of the school. I've already decided me and my girls are ruling. Now, I'll walk you to first period. You're 2 buildings over, so it's going to be a hike. Are you over there too? Nah, I'm here. She hitched her thumb at the door, only a few feet away. I glanced at the clock at the far end of the hall. We had 6 minutes until the tardy bell rang. Won't you be late to your own class? Yeah, but don't worry, grinning the sly smile grin she had of hers. She twined her arms around mine. This is my humanitarian deed of the day. Besides, you owe me, and yes, I always collect. Ask anyone. There's not a single person in the school who doesn't owe me a favor. True story. As tiny as she was, she had no problem pushing her way through the crowds, telling people off or flipping them off when they did or said something she didn't like. But she kept up a steady chatter with me, telling me everything I needed to know to survive. She's a skank, he's a player, he's cute, but almost OT'd last year, so he's a bad bet. She's a two-faced, lying, cheating witch. That's right, Trina, I'm talking to you, she shouted. By the way, she added just for me, Trina cusses, which means cussing is trashy, which means my golden rule is to never cuss. I have class, unlike Trina, the skank of Birmingham. Last part was, of course, shouted. I half expected the pretty, but somewhat masculine Trina to fly across the hall and introduce Kat to her fist, but Trina just fronted and moved on with a glare that promised vengeance. Okay, note to self, never mess with Trina. Her tank was regulation, but still managed to show off her muscular arm and tats. Her hair was chopped to just below her ears, and there were scars stretching across the back of her neck, like scars that resembled teeth marks. And I really needed to stop rubbernecking, or I'd paralyze myself. He's gay, but in denial, Kat continued as though nothing had just happened. So just a heads up, and try not to tap that. Now, his friend over there is loaded, but he's a total douche. Oh, and she's so snotty we'll need a Kleenex just to talk to her. Actually, just pretend the entire group has the plague, and you'll be better for it. She's not bad, he's crap. She ground to a stop, forcing me to do the same. Laugh like I just said something amazingly hilarious. Laugh? Seriously? Do I even remember how? She slapped my arm and whispered fiercely, Laugh! Okay, so I forced out a laugh. I'm embarrassed to admit it sounded like a frog had jumped in my throat and played bongos on my voice box. Even Kat was horrified, her mouth hanging open so wide that I could see her tonsils. She recovered quickly and tossed her hair over her shoulder, throwing off her magical laugh. It was like an angel played the harp on the top of a rainbow. So not fair. Why are we doing this? I asked quietly. Don't look now, but that's my ex over there. Surely I'm not the only one who takes don't look now as there's no better time to look than now. I looked. Bad Allie, another slapped my arm. Bad Allie. How you know self-control? Sorry, I rubbed away the sting. Did I stop looking, though? No, I stared. Hard. To the right of us was a group of 8 boys. If I ever needed a visual definition of serial criminal, I now had one. Or 8. They were tall, all of them. And they were stacked with muscle. More sported tattoos on their arms and piercings on their face. A few wore chains around their waists as if the metal links were belts. But of those bodies, they could only be weapons. Proof 2 of them had house arrest bracelets on display over their dirt-caked boots. They were shoving one another, laughing and punching each other on the arms. One of them even rubbed his fist into another's hair, holding the guy by the waist, forcing him to stay hunched over and take the abuse, while the others pointed and called him the worst kinds of names. There used to be more of them, Kat said. 2 died last year from some disease that turns your blood into a toxic sludge, basically causing you to rot from the inside out. It's not contagious or anything like that. So the proverbial they say pamphlets were sent out to all students because everyone was panicking. But it's weird that two guys got it at the same time, you know? I caught a note of something in her voice. Did you know them? Yeah, and I thought I'd cry forever. And this might be horrible to say, but I'm kind of glad they went together. They were best friends, and you never saw one without the other. And wow, this little chat became morbid. My apologies. No worries, I said. Even though I was worried, I'd never want to think about death and blood again, so much less talk about them. So, which one's yours? I asked, changing the subject back to the living boys. She snorted with disgust. The blonde. And he was mine. Was. He's not anymore, and won't ever be again. I scanned the crowd. 2 were black, 1 head was shaved, 2 were brunettes, and 1 had jet black hair, and 2 were blonde. I wanted to look over the blondes, I really did, but once I spotted the one with hair so black it was almost blue, I was stuck. He wore a bright red baseball cap. There was writing on the center, but I couldn't make out the words. He was the only one not horsing around, while his back pressed in the lockers and his arm folded over his chest. He watched his friends with lazy amusement. He was gorgeous, and I absolutely no question had to be drooling. After a quick and hopefully stealthy check, big shock, I wasn't. I found myself wondering what color his eyes were. Brown, maybe? Or even hazel. Either way. Wow. Just wow. Dear? Headlights? Hi, I'm Allie. Yo, kitty cat, someone called. I forced myself to stop staring at Red Hat and glance at one of the blondes. Come over here and give me a proper hello. You know you want to. What I want is for you to go to hell, she called back. Oh, come on. Don't be that way, baby. He was the taller of the blondes, with cold brown eyes and a face that would have made the devil hide in a shadow corner, sucking his thumb and crying for his mommy. Even though I couldn't imagine him winning a girl like Kat, could imagine him cheating. He had to be the ex. You love me, 'cause you just can't help yourself. I hope Rena gave you STD. The boys around him snickered, and the fact that he maintained his grin, rather than murdering Kat, surprised me. That's harsh, baby. I was just teasing when I called you by her name. Both times? Yep, the ex. So Trina, the two-faced lying cheating witch, had to be the very same Rena he'd messed around with over the summer break. And honestly, that totally blew my mind. Kat was one of the prettiest, most feminine girls I'd ever met, while that Trina person was hardcore. Although, so was the ex. Besides the I'm totally a serial killer phase, he had black bands tattooed around his wrists and brass knuckles tattooed over his eyes. Well, knuckles. I'm not mad, though, Kat said. You lied to me, and I lied to you. We're even. Finally, he lost his grin. What did you lie? She gave him a sweet and low smile as if his music had been poured into her. Every time we messed around, I didn't actually enjoy myself, if you know what I mean. Burn, one of his friends said. He shoved the boy away. Don't be that way, he pleaded to her, and I would have bet he was only halfway kidding. There was a desperate gleam in those dark eyes. Don't tell me what to do. And by the way, I'm not teasing when I do this. Kat flipped him off times 2, and all of his friends erupted into a fresh round of snickers. His confidence facade faded, but he still said, I'll change your mind and I'll win you back. It's just a matter of time. Actually, it's just a matter of time before I feed your balls to my dog. And aside to me, she said, Remind me, I need to buy a dog. The black-haired one finally glanced over at us. Yeah, I returned to staring at him, and I forgot all about Kat and her problems. Violet, I realized. Those eyes of his were the most amazing shade of violet. I had never seen so beautiful a color. Had to be contacts, right? He gave Kat a once-over and grinned a hello. I barely stopped myself from chewing on one of my nails. A disgusting nervous tick I'd broken years ago. Would he look directly at me? Answer, yes. The moment our eyes met, the moisture in my mouth dried up and I lost focus of my surroundings. He was all that I could see and all that I wanted to see, and in the span of a single second, we were no longer across the hall from each other. We were pressed together, his arms wrapped around me, my arm wrapped around him, and we were kissing. Miracles of miracles, he was 5 inches taller than me, practically dwarfing me. I loved it. Oh, glory, I loved what we were doing. I'd never been kissed before, but his tongue was definitely in my mouth, and my tongue was definitely in his. We were practically eating each other's faces. Allie, he breathed as he drew me closer, squeezed me tighter. Cole, I breathed back. I couldn't get enough of him and never wanted to stop. He was so warm, so very warm. When I'd been so cold all summer, no matter how many blankets had piled on top of me, I'd been cold. I wanted to stay here, just like this, forever. My fingers tangled in his hair, knocking his cap off. He angled his head, taking my mouth deeper, harder. You taste good, he asked. He smelled of sandalwood and something fruity, like a strawberry lollipop just freed from its wrapper. Talk later. Kiss now. Allie! Allie! Kat stepped in front of me. She was frowning, waving. Hello, anyone home? I blinked and realized I was in the same spot I'd occupied before, and with that realization came another. I'd never crossed the hall, never met the boy in the hat halfway. Cole, I'd call him. Never plowed my fingers through his hair, never touched him, and absolutely never kissed him. yet my lips tingled and I was having trouble drawing air into my lungs. You okay? Kat asked, her concern evident. She was so short and no trouble peeking over her shoulder at the group of boys. Nearly everyone else had been abandoned the hallways, maybe because the tardy bell had been ringing and was only now fading. Crap, 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 crap. How long had I been staring at that boy? At least he was staring at me too, or maybe that wasn't such a good thing. He was scowling at me, and it was the kind of scowl you saw in a guy in a dark alley just before he crushed your face into the dirt and stole your purse. One of his friends was tugging on his arm, trying to get his attention. Reddit snapped his teeth at me and turned to stomp out of the hall. Mind telling us what that was about, my man? I leaned against the lockers to find my balance. Only then, with a distance between us and his gaze unlocked my mind, did I manage to catch my breath. The one with the hat, I said to Kat. What's his name? I probably should have assured her of my mental competence first, but I craved info about him so badly. And really, could I assure anyone of my mental competence right just then? Kat's head fell forward as if suddenly too heavy to hold, but her penetrating stare remained on me. Why? Are you interested in him? My mouth floundered open and closed. I was interested in knowing what had just happened, how I just envisioned kissing him, how the vision had seemed so real, that I felt his heat, his strength, so real that my body had reacted physically. Just curious, I said finally, trying for nonchalant. I didn't feel, but my words were straight up truth. I was curious. She wasn't buying. That's Carl Holland. And girl, you so don't want to date him, trust me. Shock blustered through me. His name was really Cole? But how I hadn't known that? You heard someone else call him Cole, that's all. A subconscious thing. Maybe. Probably. Why? I croaked. Because I'm totally trustworthy. Hello, you've met me, right? If I hadn't been in such a state of upheaval, I would have rolled my eyes. Not why should I trust you? Why don't I want to date him? Oh, well, for starters, because you're intimidated by him. I'm not intimidated by him. She rose on her tippy toes to pat the top of my head and said, since you won't admit that truth about how this one, because he's the leader of a rapid pack of animals and he's totally dangerous. Dangerous? Yeah, I got that. You dated one of his friends. She spread her arms as if I just made a point. And look where I ended up. Cheated on and broken-hearted. The soft snick of closing doors filled the halls and she glanced around. Come on, let's finish this on the way to your class. Now, the halls were deserted and I could move freely. I should have relaxed, but I felt like I'd been plunged into something. A battery, maybe? I had energy, and there was a soft buzzing echoing in my head. The lights in the hallway seemed brighter. Cole's the worst of the lot. He speaks, and the rest of them jump to a bed. They skip school, do a lot, and do well. Your guess is as good as mine. No, probably not as good, but close. And yeah, you'd think I know for sure, but Frosty was stellar at keeping secrets. Obviously, anyway, they're always wounded. So, they like to throw down in the nastiest way possible. And did I mention that they're secretive? Cole's the worst, but Frosty's second in line for the title of the vault. I promise. Frosty? My ex. I got that, but his name is... A nickname, yes. He accidentally locked himself out of his house one winter. By the time he was found, he was covered in ice and completely frostbitten. They nearly amputated all of his limbs. True story. Really? Because I hadn't noticed anything missing, and if they'd nearly amputated all of his limbs, surely it would have taken a few fingers, the most vulnerable part of the hand. Fine, he'd only lost a toe, but frostbite is treacherous. Anyway, the only girl who got to hang out with them on their private little adventures are Mackenzie Love, Cole's ex, and Trina, who had the misfortune of meeting earlier. Cole still hung out with his ex? That had to be bad news written all over it. Not that I cared, or wanted to. I don't go on a date with him, marry him, and have his babies. I just wanted answers, really. What had happened in the hallway, or rather, what had not happened, was freaking me out. I mean, I'd always had a strong imagination, as evidenced by the monster in the wedding dress. I'd just convinced myself. It was a 9 vacancy of making out in the hallway with a strange boy I hadn't officially met, far surpassed anything I'd ever thought of. Just a warning, Kat said. If you hang out with them, Mackenzie will corner you and threaten your very existence. Oh, and your friends will drop you and you'll be known as trouble. I could handle the trouble, again, not that I was even considering doing anything with Cole. Were you dropped when you dated Frosty? For a moment, only a moment, she radiated sadness. Then she flipped her hair over one shoulder and grinned and said, I've always been known as a big-time trouble. And though no one has yet realized I'm more trouble now than Frosty and I, or is it Frosty and me, I can't even remember. Whatevs. I'm more trouble now that we've split, but you'll learn to appreciate that part of me, I'm sure. I already do, I said, and I meant it. We reached a red door, and she stopped. She hitched her thumb at it and said, This is you. I peeked into the classroom through the small window in the door and wanted to run, or vomit. No, both. Kids were everywhere, and there were no empty seats. The teacher was at the front, already lecturing. The moment I walked inside, silence would take over, and every eye would find me. Now, maybe I turned green or shuddered, because Kat said, Nervous? Yes, but only a little lot. I've always had difficulty lying. Want a ditch? I asked hopefully. We could start fresh for a block or two. No, I don't want a ditch, and I'm not even going to attempt to figure out what a little lot is. I want to make an entrance in my own class. After all, the center of attention is the best place to be. No, it wasn't. I backed up a step. I'll wait for you outside then. You'll be fine, she said, merciless. They'll love you, and if they don't, let me know who I need to punish. That's a specialty of mine, just FYI. So is tough love. She patted me on the butt. Now, go get 'em, baby cub. Cat, wait, you heard the part about tough love, right? And P.S., in a few months you might graduate to full-on tigress, but until then, she opened the door and gave me a push inside the room. You'll have to endure the growing pains. I survived first block with only a splash of humiliation. The teacher, and I use that term lightly, made me stand at the front of class and tell the students a little about myself and why I was late. Apparently there were no breaks for anyone, not even on the first day, and certainly not for the first-timers, who should know how to read a map. My thinking on the matter, Mr. Buttle, who I won't forever call Mr. Butthole, was on a power trip. But whatever, I got through without any interval of scarring because a very cute boy, puppy dog, brown eyes, smiled encouragingly at me, then made my universal jerk-off sign the motion of Mr. Butthole, turned his back, sending everyone into peals of laughter, thereby taking the attention away from me. Second block took place in the same hall, but was third in another building. Still, I made it on time, and class proved to be a breeze. No one tried to talk to me except the short, rotund Mrs. Myers. She wore her salt and pepper hair and bun. Her glasses were too big for her face and continually slid down her nose, but she wasn't unpleasant to look at. I'm so excited to begin a brand new year with you, she said, clapping. And I know you will too when you hear about what I've got planned. By the way, this is creative writing, in case anyone accidentally wandered into the wrong room. Anyone? No? Great. On with our stories. I propped my head up on one hand, and I meant to pay attention. I really did, but my mind drifted. I'd like to say I pondered my future's ways to improve my general state of mind. Anything useful. But no. My brain hopped on the train to Hollandvale and refused to detour. One question after another formed. What had happened out there in the hallway? Had Cole experienced anything? Why, he looked at me. The way he had snapped out his teeth at me, as if bewildered by him without saying a word, maybe. But then again, maybe that had been a gesture of irritation. I raped him. And what if I tranced out, or whatever you want to call it, the next time I saw him? Desperate to know, I searched for him after both my first and second classes. I looked through numerous passageways along the stairs, and yes, I've even slowed down in front of both boys' bathrooms I'd passed, but there'd been no hint of him. Maybe that was a good thing. He intimidated me. There, I admitted it. He was big and bad, and obviously well acquainted with violence. I'd had enough violence in my life, thanks. Besides, there was only 3 possible outcomes if the two of us actually spoke. 1, he'd tell me to bleep off. 2, he'd tell everyone I was bleeping insane. 3, he'd ask me who the bleep I thought I was because he's positive he's never seen me before. I didn't know him, and yet I easily imagined him cussing. A lot. Kat would not approve. I think you'll find her work symbolic of, Miss Myers' voice intruded, trying to claim my attention, but my dilemma quickly returned to center stage. I so wanted to talk to my mom about Cole and what happened because of my dad. She'd understood weird, saw varying shades of degrees. She wouldn't have laughed at me. She wouldn't have rushed me in for a emergency therapy session. She would have sat me down and helped me reach a conclusion that satisfied me. I missed her so much and was so badly that it had been nice to her there at the end. Well, what do you know? My mind could go somewhere other than Cole Holland today. No way would I mention any of this to Nana and Pops. They'd freak out. Not that they'd ever show me. For me, they would smile and pretend all was well, never realizing I'd once caught them whispering in their bedroom. Poor thing, therapy isn't working. Will she ever recover, do you think? Not sure. All I know is that she's hurting so badly, but there's nothing I can do. She won't let me. I know. I've never felt so helpless. They tried to get me to go to the movies, ice skating, and shopping, things kids my age are supposedly like to do, but my answer was always the same, no. Each time they'd kissed me on the forehead and said, maybe next time. Refusing to worry them further, I'd swallowed back the words, maybe never. I spent most of my time in my room, and that's the way I liked it. I had a routine. I spent the mornings reading the Iron Fae series. I'd spend my evenings listening to the mixtapes my dad had made for my mom. I was staying in her old room and had found her old cassette player. I spent my nights searching for monsters. On weekdays, I left the house for school, and on weekends, I left for church. That was it. The bell rang, shattering my thoughts like a fist through a mirror, and I bolted upright. Miss Myers was stacking books on her desk. Kids were already filing out of the classroom. I gathered my stuff and rose to do the same. Alice Bell, Miss Myers called before I could leave. Our gaze met. Locked. I prefer Allie. She nodded and offered me a warm smile. I looked over your transcript from Carver Academy, and I like what I saw. With straight A's, I'm guessing you didn't sleep in class? Ouch. I wasn't sleeping, I promise. Her smile grew, letting me know that she wasn't offended. I know reading and writing aren't everyone's favorite thing, but give me a chance tomorrow, okay? If you don't like what I'm saying, if I fail to engage you, fine. Sleep or daydream or whatever you want to call it. Fair enough. You have my word. Good, she motioned to the door with a tilt of her chin. Go on. You've got places to be, I'm sure. I stepped into the hall and prayed the world would suddenly end. Frosty and one of his more feral friends were waiting for me. Clearly, their gaze zeroed in on me and arrowed meet bullseye, and they leaped into motion, closing the distance between us. I bet they were here to warn me to stay away from Cole. How humiliating. I kept walking, and they kept pace behind me, flanking me. Testosterone walked me in, nearly shutting out the rest of the world. Sup, I'm Frosty, the rough-looking blonde said. Up close I saw his eyes were not completely brown, but pretty blueberry with flecks of chocolate. My stomach growled. Okay, so I was hungry, and that was probably why his eyes reminded me of delicious food. So what? An appetite was a good thing, and I've been without one all summer. This here is my boy Bronx, he added when I failed to respond. I'm Allie. Either I hadn't noticed Bronx earlier, not so likely, or he'd been running late. Bronx, huh? Is that where you're from? Nope, Frosty answered for him. Bronx said nothing, but oh, did he stare, for a guy with barbells in both of his eyebrows, and hair dyed in electric blue. That stare bypassed demon dark and went straight into devil damned. Okay, I said. What else was I supposed to say? A group of jocks passed us. To my surprise, they practically flattened themselves against the row of lockers to keep out of the way of my giant muscled bookends. I couldn't even smell their fear, an acrid scent coating the air between us, stinging my nostrils. So weird. At my school, jocks had ruled their word law, and the only thing they worried about was the next game. Different schools, different worlds, I guess. Boys, I heard Dr. Wright say. I picked up the clack-clack of her heels before I spotted her at the end of the hall. You're not manhandling Miss Bell, correct? She spoke as she walked towards us. Her gaze remained locked on Frosty. I'd hate to have to ruin the rest of your day with detention. No reason to ruin Dr. Wright, he said with military precision the same time I said, I'm fine. She wasn't satisfied. Why do you want to talk with her? Frosty smiled all innocent. Just to talk. What else? Why? Were all principals as nosy? Because she's cute? Frosty replied, a question rather than a statement. In that moment, I could have fallen flat on my face and experienced less embarrassment. Dr. Wright's suspicions were not assumed, judging by the narrowing of her eyes by her briskly past us without trying to stop us. Just make sure you watch your mouths or I'll have to catch your guardians. She threw out over her shoulder. Frosty shuddered. Bronx saluted with mock respect. So how do you know Cat? Frosty asked me, jumping back to the conversation. As determined as his look, he was done with distractions. I relaxed. They weren't here for Cole, and they weren't here because I might be, or might not be, moderately attracted. We ran into each other during summer break. Hopefully that was the right thing to say. I wasn't sure about proper etiquette when dealing with a friend's ex. Where at? He asked, pretending at ease, those M&M eyes failed to project. Well, how could I answer this without spilling info about myself? The two boys guided me around a corner by pressing their shoulders into mine and steering me. I'd wanted to go the other way to my locker. Whatever, I could deal. I might not want anything to do with violence, but I could handle myself. Even with bruisers like these, my dad had made sure of that. In fact, I'd taken my dad down a time or 12, flipping him over, popping him and once even breaking his nose. Every time I bested him, he'd smile so wonderfully proud of me. A burning in my eyes, a tremor in my chin. Dang it, I needed to concentrate on the here and now. What did Francie ask me? Oh, yeah. If you want to know where I met Kat, you'll have to ask Kat. There was an answer without being an answer. Meanwhile, I'd been pulling her aside the next time I saw her and asking her to mentally torture the details. Frosty acted as if I'd just stabbed him in the gut. Cruel, Allie. So cruel. At least give me a hint. Pretty please. With cherries on top of me. Charming, but I couldn't forget that he'd cheated on Kat. Thinking fast, I said, okay, here's a hint. A lot of people were there. There was some screaming. Definitely some writhing. A lot of touching. Doctors were very hands-on. In the next instant, I was given a deeper glimpse of the criminal in the making. Frosty was. The mask of availability fell away, revealing hard, dark eyes and lips compressed with rage. Did she touch anyone? Did anyone touch her? Dude, you left her for the entire summer. It's been nice talking to you, I said, and everything, but I really need to go. We rounded another corner and I slammed into something solid. Losing my concentration, I stumbled backwards. Bronx caught me, right in me, and let me go as if I'd just given him third-degree burns. I'm sorry, I began, focusing on the person I'd hit. A girl, shorter than me by several inches, silky dark hair, curled to the middle of her back and framed a face God might have used to design his favorite angel. Her makeup was perfect, her skin was slightly sunburned, but still perfect. Her clothes were expensive and sexy, yet still elegant and perfect. She wore a pink cashmere sweater and a flirty white skirt. She had the only diamond in the sea of glass. I wasn't into girls, but wow, this one could probably turn anyone. Not even Kat and her catalog friends could compare. Is this your newest slice of tail, Frosty? She asked. all kinds of "you're beneath me" in her tone, a tone clearly directed at me. Maybe she wouldn't be able to turn me. I wasn't into nasty. "Back off, Mackenzie," Frosty said. Mackenzie? As in Mackenzie Love? This was Cole Holland's ex? Of course she was, I thought next, wanting to laugh without a bit of humor. Beautiful boys dated beautiful girls. That's how the world worked. And yes, by those rules, I would have denied to be with a lanky loser with a tragic past. Wonderful. Cole wants you, she snapped at the boy, so your little missionary trip will have to wait. Cue my exit. I'd already said my goodbye, so I pushed my way past Mackenzie and entered the cafeteria. So that when they'd been talking to me, time for lunch then. No wonder my stomach had been growling. The smell of food, paired with 1,000 other appetites, could have turned a mannequin into a savage. Alrighty, line snake from every direction. I had no idea what I wanted, so I scanned the area until I spotted a familiar face in the far corner. Cat waved me over. Behind me, Frosty yelled at me for my attention, while Mackenzie called him an idiot. Ignoring them, I trumped forward. The deeper I entered the room, the more I noticed the grease that coated the air. I also caught hints of sugar, perfume, and cologne, everything combining to form a cloy musk. Goodbye, appetite. What were you doing with Frosty? Cat asked the moment I plopped down beside her. No rage. That's good. He and the other boy, Bronx, were waiting for me after class. Frosty and how the two of us met. The roses drained from her cheeks. What did you tell him? I bullet pointed my response, praying I had gotten it right. Relief wafted from her color returning. Rock on. You almost did an awesome job as I would have done. I so needed that kind of confidence. Thank you. Just don't tell anyone when we really met, okay? She set her gaze pleading. No problem there. But why did she want anyone to know? Before I could question her, the rest of her troop arrived, and I greeted each with a half smile, since that was that's all I was currently capable of. As the girls launched into details about everything they'd learned about people I didn't know, I felt little hairs on the back of my neck, so I endured the sensation for several minutes before caving and twisting in my seat, reaching for the source of discomfort. Cole and his gang sat a few tables away from us. Cole was staring at me, staring such a mild word for the slitted gaze leveled on me, piercing me if my eyes could throw daggers out of a few embedded in my chest. Not that that's where he was looking, mind you. I gathered my courage and maintained contact, waiting, expectant. Except there was no vision this time, no mental unfolding of us kissing. This morning must have been a one-time thing, a fluke. I was relieved about that. I wasn't disappointed. Besides, things were better this way. Proof. The angelic Mackenzie was perched next to him, her arm draped around his shoulder, staking her claim, warning me away. She too glared at me as she whispered something in his ear. I didn't have time to be a mind reader to know she just plotted my social death. Whatever. Popularity wasn't a concern for me. What? I mouthed at her, in a legitimate question. What had I done to her? Nothing. That's what. She ran her tongue over her teeth just before growling something that sounded like, "Let me teach her," to Cole. "Just a little lesson, please." I didn't hear his reply. Cat patted my hand. "Are you listening to me? Because these are nuggets I'm throwing out are golden. Namely, if you want to be in power, you have to knock the current queen off her pedestal. Kicking words, as does punching. I wasn't listening. I'm sorry," I responded, my cheeks heating as I faced her. "So, who's the current queen?" "The ex of the guy you were just stripping in your mind," Ray said. I think I had a front row seat to the day the war ignited between Mackenzie Love and Allie something. "Belle," I said. As Cat said, "Allie will totally win, but she'll want me to have the throne, I'm positive." I shuddered at the thought of anyone thinking I was a person to emulate. I don't want the throat. Cat's chin lifted in delight. "See? Cole must think you give good eye," because he was making out with you right back. "Still is," Min said, glancing between us. "Mackenzie will probably try to kill you before the weekend ends. But honestly, he's not worth the hassle. He'll only drag you down, ruin your life." Puppy twirled. The last girl to receive that kind of look from him spent a year in a full-body cast. What girl? I found myself asking. There was no girl, Cat said with a frown. I would have remembered something like that. Ren sighed with sadness. She's right. There wasn't a girl. We were just testing you to see your reaction. You failed. She turned to Cat. "Have you told her about your association with Frosty? How he nearly got you kicked out of school?" Someone tapped me on the shoulder. My gaze shot up, and I came face to face with the dark-haired from Mr. Butthole's class, the one who had made everyone laugh, drawing attention away from me. My table went quiet. "Don't let Mackenzie scare you," he said, which let me know that everyone in the cafeteria had noticed her silent vow to ruin me. "She's great with her fists, but only if she's standing. Get her on the ground and you've already won." With that, he straightened and walked off. Shocked, I faced the girls. All four were gasping at me. Cat, Poppy, and Reeve were with Ren with a sharpness that confused me. I spread my arms. "What?" A grinning Cat said. "Cole is so not going to like the fact that he's got competition." That was Justin Silverstone, and he never talks to anyone except his sister. You're definitely not his sister. Poppy nodded with enthusiasm. I honestly thought he was gay. Ren slapped her arm. He's not gay. Reeve anchored her elbow on the table and leaned forward. "So, how'd you do it, Allie?" "Do what?" I asked, truly baffled. "Get his attention." Ren said, her tone as sharp as a caramel glaze. He's a straight-A student, never misses a day of school, and already has his future mapped out. He's going places. Not that you couldn't normally get a guy like him, but he's so reclusive. I shifted in my seat, saying, I didn't get his attention. The only boy I'd ever talked to was Frosty, and that's because he ambushed me. Cat muttered, all doubt and amusement. Well, let's see if Cole noticed your unexpected visitor. My eyes widened as I reached for her arm. Don't. But it was too late. She already twisted to look. A second later, her mouth fell open. I couldn't help myself. I looked too. What I saw shook me to my soul. I wasn't the only person who'd gotten a death glare today. Cole was watching Justin as if he meant to flay the skin from his bones, throw it down, and play Dance Dance Revolution on it. That has nothing to do with me, I managed to croak. It couldn't, but part of me kind of hoped that it did. That is the end of Chapter 3, Alice in Zombieland.